We're gonna keep the anime bandwagon going with Saber Dragon today. So yet another excuse for me to play Duality. This is one of the decks that's most famous for utilizing the card, and definitely what I wanted to test out. We've got a few replays lined up of us sort of doing well with the deck. Now, of course, it is still Saber Dragon. It is still pretty subpar. I don't know if we're building it in the most efficient way possible. I was trying to build it in a way that's going to be consistent, getting consistent access to the cards that we need. You probably want to play it slightly differently. You probably want to play some more going second cards, more kaijus, whatever. I just wanted to play with Duality. So in terms of the actual deck profile, I'll take you through what I'm playing at the end of the video, as well as why I'm playing what I'm playing. But there's definitely room for a lot of changes, right? But this is the idea. What exactly does the deck do? Well, as a quick sort of Cliff Notes version, what it essentially does is it relies upon Clockwork Knight and Duality and things to cheat out powerful extra deck monsters. Clockwork Knight in particular being able to basically allow you to contact fuse using the whole field into the Chimeric Tech Fortress Dragon. Now, if I could say their name instead of spitting their name, that would be a decent improvement. So basically, the Clockwork Knight allows you to change all monsters in the field of machine, and this guy can be summoned by contact fusing a Saber Dragon as well as any number of machines from anywhere on the field into this guy. Now, even short of you utilizing this with Clockwork Knight, there is actually some room in the meta right now for Saber Dragons to contact fuse using Kashtira or Riceheart being a machine monster. Also gives this card inherent use outside of just with Clockwork Knight. It being a level 8 machine as well gives you a little bit of flexibility because you can use Duality on it to go for the Saber Twin Dragon for an instant lethal play. So there's quite a lot you can do with this deck. It's a lot of fun. I think there's definitely some potential here. I don't think, obviously it's not going to be a meta definer or anything like that, but I definitely think maybe we could change how we're working with this deck. Maybe drop the Saber Dark package and go into something a little bit more traditional, a little bit more straightforward, more going second cards, maybe some Pot of Prosperity in there, but maybe not that, but you know what I mean? Either way, we're going to talk more about the deck itself at the end of the video when we go through it card for card, so stick around for that if you're curious about what we're actually playing. But for now, I've got a few replays lined up to show you how the deck works, just so you can get to grips with some of the basic play. So if you're interested in this style of content, as well as anything else that we do on the channel, of course, subscribe. It is the easiest and freest way to show support on the channel, and it really does help me out quite a bit. So if you haven't hit the button, it doesn't cost you anything. It helps me out. It helps you out. Everybody wins, right? There's no point in not subscribing. And again, like the video if you actually do end up enjoying watching. If you're interested in any of our other platforms, we're posting on TikTok, we're posting on Twitter, we've got DeviantArt for God's sake, we've got did I already say TikTok? You know what I mean? There's another one, I forget its name, but if you want to get more, Discord, that's the one. If you want to get involved in any other parts of the channel, any parts of what's going on, you can use those links below as well. But I'm not going to take up too much time here at the beginning. Let's just get right into the gameplay. Already getting into replay number 1 here. We're going to be playing second, of course. You really do want to be going second with this deck. That's kind of just what Saber Dragons does. We are going to meet our opponent with an Maxi here, getting crossed out by the Designator though, so our Maxi is not going to resolve, which is fine. Again, I don't really want to win a game just because of Maxi. It feels kind of cheap, if you will. They're going to go sign up maining, grabbing Salamangreat, Jack Jaguar, playing against some Salamangreats here, summoning the Flame Buffalo, going to link it off into the Baylings. Baylings gets Surgeon. Buffalo has that draw. Draw 2, discard 1. They're going to grab the Sanctuary from the deck here. Sanctuary being a pretty big card. They're going to drop a Jack Jaguar first of all, drawing into Gazelle, which is pretty fucking nuts. They're going to mill a Spinny then off of that. They're going to go into the Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. Going to use the field spell now. Going to use Spinny, summoning it to the zone underneath the Sunlight Wolf to trigger its effect to grab back the Gazelle from the graveyard, adding it back to hand. Now we're going to use the field spell to go into another copy of the Sunlight Wolf using the original Jack Jaguar, then returning the original back to the extra deck to summon itself out of the field. Going into Splash Mage now. Splash Mage going to target a Cyber, bringing it back to the field, linking off into Transcode Talker. Going to use the Transcode Talker, bringing back the Splash Mage that's in the graveyard. Going to link off once more into Decode Talker Heat Soul. They got that Code Talker set up here, paying 1,000 life points, drawing a card, drawing in the circle by the looks of it, hitting a Foxy here for next turn, just to have some follow-up. They're going to set one, and they're going to pass. So that's pretty much what Salamangreats do. This hand right here is like the golden hand. If you see Clockwork Knight and any Saber Dragon monster, automatically that's really good. You see Duality and Clock Knight, that's instant lethal. And then having Lightning Storm on top of that is just honestly insane. So what we're going to do is we're just going to wipe the back row out here right away. cleaning out the back row. The field spell protects itself, but that's fine. We're going to go for Clockwork Knight, changing all his monsters to machines, special summoning the Saber Dragon. That's going to trigger the draw one off of the Decode Talker Heat Soul. Now we're going to contact fuse the whole board into the Fortress Dragon, normal summon, grabbing Horizon just in case. They're going to go for Droll. We don't give a shit. Into the battle phase, 935, and that is game. It's game because Duality tags out the Fortress Dragon for the Saber Twin Dragon. Double attack, 3,300 attack points. Instantly, game over. We had 2 attacks on that guy as well. That was insane, with, again, over 10,000 damage in total on that turn. That is what Saber Dragons does. You want to contact fuse away the whole board. If you don't have access to Clockwork Knight, it still works against machine monsters in general, and even then, you can still at the very least contact fuse away monsters in the extra monster zones into the Chimera Tech, the Mega Fleet Dragon, sorry. So you still have the ability to, we would still have been able to break that board even without Clockwork Knight, but boy did it fucking help, so I'm not going to complain. But either way, that's game number 1. Let's get into game 2. Alrighty, getting into game 2 here. Now you'll notice this one is slightly different. This actually happened in a duel room. This opponent here is a member of our Discord. We were in just sort of spitballing, playing around. He's playing full power Sword Soul. This is a hell of a matchup, and we're again playing Saber Dragons. He did win more often than us, so again, I'm not going to try and sell Saber Dragons as better than Sword Soul. It's not. But this was a pretty fun game, so I did want to show it off at least once here. They're going to go for the Mo Yi here. Mo Yi going to reveal the Blackout in hand. Going to summon out a token. They're going to Synchro Summon into the Shi Zhao. Pretty standard Sword Soul stuff here. They're going to get it searching and drawing off of that Mo Yi. They have the Droll in hand, Blackout in hand. They have the Circle in hand. They have Desires. This guy's hand is stacked, right? They're going to banish 10, draw 2. Drawing in the Talent and Imperm. So that's an absolutely just disgusting hand, right, this guy's got. This is insane. We're going to use Lightning Storm, wiping out the back row, so that's a pretty good start for us here. We're going to go for now the Saber Dark Claw. Claw discarding itself to grab Horizon. Getting hit with Droll and Lockbird is so big. Droll and Lockbird stops us from using Core, stops us from using Horizon. That really does shut down much of what we wanted to do. We do, however, still have 1 play remaining. We're going to use Core to try and beat the Grandmaster. I guess he's going to negate this so that its name is no longer treated as Saber Dragon because, you know, fair enough, that's decent. But our plan is to Link Summon. So he's going to summon his token, but that's fine. We're going to Link Summon in the Saber Dragon Seeger. We're going to use Night Seeger in the battle phase, boosting up the 4,200, taking out the Grandmaster. We're just going to end turn. Duality, no use to us. We can't use Horizon. Thanks to that Droll, we weren't able to use it. And we still have an Ash Blossom though. Going to use Herald of the Abyss, wiping out the Seeger, going for Taya. Taya banishing Grandmaster for Grave, going to summon out another token. Now they're going to use the Heavenly Dragon Circle, tributing a token to try and search their deck or even summon from their deck another monster. We're going to hit that quickly with an Ash Blossom, but little do I know, this man has Triple Tactics Talent in his hand, and he's going to look at my hand and send a card back to the deck, getting rid of our Duality. Going into another Grandmaster here, going to use Grandmaster, get searching, going to use Taya to mill an additional card as well. Still having a Circle in hand too, which is pretty damn nuts. Sending an Adara, going to use this to search their deck for the Strategist. Luckily, they don't have a card to discard. Going to swing directly for 28. It's not looking good for your boy here. We're really going to have to draw into some crazy stuff to make this work, and we got the Duality here. Going to use Saber Dragon Core in the graveyard, banishing it to summon the Nashter. Nashter then going to try and bring back the Seeker from the graveyard, forcing the early negate. Again, unfortunately, he's able to shut us down there quite handily thanks to that once per turn monster negate. The Seeker would have really turned the tide there, but it's a tough one to make work. Even against a singular interruption, once you sort of lose card advantage, it becomes very difficult for you to claw it back. They're going to go for the Grandmaster here. I'm assuming what happened was they've banished all of their important cards. Yeah, their banish pile will be looking kind of stacked. They just don't have anything left worth grabbing. They're going to win the Protoss though. Protoss going to declare Light, destroying his own monster to basically prevent me from summoning light monsters during my turn. That's a big play, and it is definitely going to hurt. But we top deck into the Saber Dragon Horn, going to drop it off of Horizon, going to drop hers to the graveyard, going to grab Saber Dark Cannon from the deck. Again, we were playing a slightly different package here. It was kind of cool. It kind of worked out a little bit. We're going to go for Cannon here. Just imagine that we just grabbed Chimera directly from the deck. The extra cannon has no impact. We're going to go for the Chimera. We're going to drop Duality, grabbing Power Bond from the deck. We're going to use Power Bond, Fusion Summoning into the Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon, boosting its attack points up to 4,200 permanently. Going to send 2 Saber Dragons from deck to grave, swinging over the Protoss for 1,700 and attacking directly, 42 to the face and 42 to the face. Triple attack, 4,200 attack points, wiping out all the back row as well. If he had any back row, the Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon would have wiped out all the back row as well. So that is nuts. Crazy comeback, right? All it takes is one card. Pretty good stuff overall. Let's get into the next one. Alrighty, getting into our next game here, starting off with Max C. That's good, our Max C actually resolves for once. We're going to set 2 and pass. That sounds good to me, Chief. Although, unironically, we don't exactly have a lot in the way of interruption ourselves. We're going to go Lightning Storm, wiping out the back row. We are going to go for Saber Emergency, grabbing the core from the deck so we can get searching, except we can't, because we're getting hit with Droll again. What is with all of this Droll? So we're going to banish the Crescendo from the graveyard before their Droll resolves so they can search for an additional card. We're going to hit that with an Ash Blossom while we can. We might as well. But that really does hamper our ability to continue. Both Horizon and Core are no longer useful this turn. We're simply going to have to set our Knight and pass. 3 cards in our opponent's hand here. Let's see if it's enough. They're going to start with Gold Sarcophagus. What an opening card. They're going to banish Saber Dragon Dark from their deck. They're going to use the Dark now to search their deck for a Hawk. Hawk then, of course, being able to bring back the banished Thunder Dragon Dark for them to immediately tribute it, summoning out Thunder Dragon Colossus. Colossus prevents us from searching our deck for any cards, so that means Core and Horizon are both still useless. However, we have options. We can definitely clear this out. They're going to go for Max C again against us. That's totally fair, but we've got everything we need for lethal. Normal summoning the Core. Going to use Clockwork Knight, changing the Colossus to a machine to summon out the Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon. We attack for 25. We activate Duality, tribute for Saber Twin Dragon, attack for 23, for 33, attack for 33 again, and that is instant lethal. I don't know if our opponent knew that we had that lined up, but ultimately they don't allow us to execute it, but that was officially the end of the duel. We had that in the bag. And there you go. Again, it's a really fun deck overall. You will find a lot of really funny situations like this where you just win games that you have no business winning. It also doesn't really have any like outright counters. So it doesn't, other than quick play back row removal, which isn't really super prevalent right now. A lot of fun though. Let's get into the deck profile. So, this is the deck that we were playing. Now, is this the absolute optimal best way of playing it? Probably not. There may be better ways of playing it, but this is definitely an absolute blast. So, what are we actually playing? Let's go through the deck here. First of all, we're going to cut our hand traps and such. We got that triple Max C, we got that triple Ash Blossom, double Call By, single Crossout. We're also running double Infinite Impermanence. We got a little Lightning Storm in there just because we can. You can run sort of whatever you want in those slots. Max C, I think, is a must-have. You're not as vulnerable to... You're not too vulnerable to Maxi in this deck. You maybe summon once or twice, but you don't need to dedicate a ton of room to it. So if you wanted to maybe run like triple Ash, triple Maxi, and then maybe instead of running the Call By and Crossout, maybe you want to run some Thrust, some Lightning Storm, some Talent. Maybe you want to run it like that instead. There's a lot of ways of doing it. You could even put in, you know, Kaijus and such. But yeah, I'm just giving you ideas. What you do with that information is entirely your business. Where's Thrust? Let's get that out of there. This, however, is sort of what I think is the core of the deck. This is what I think you should be playing in terms of just Saber Dragon itself. You could argue Nashter to 1, but we'll get there in a minute. Let's talk about the actual Saber Dragon cards themselves. So, Saber Dragon itself, the OG, the level 5, we're playing it at 3. You can special summon this card if your opponent controls a monster and you do not. It's handy enough. You don't have to play 3 of it. You can play it at 2, but honestly, I really do like seeing it in my opening hand because of Clockwork Knight and the ability to go into the Mega Fleet Dragon, even if we don't have the Clockwork Knight, or being able to send it to the grave off of Duality to summon it like an Axel Synchron or an Ally of Justice Catastor, both of which are pretty funny cards. So yeah, there's a ton of options. There really is. I like it for sure. I like it at 3. You can get away with playing it like 2 or 1 though. We have Saber Dragon Hers. Mainly this card is here because when it's sent to the graveyard, you get to grab a Saber Dragon from your deck or graveyard. So it's basically just an extra search when you mill it, and you will be milling it a lot off of your Cybernetic Horizon, which we'll get to in a minute. We've got Nashter, which can special summon itself from your hand by discarding a monster, and if it is ever summoned, you get to target a machine in your graveyard, with 2100 attack or defense. Bear in mind that would mean either a Cyber Dragon or your Chimera, or even some of your extra deck monsters. A lot of them have 2100 attack. It basically brings back a monster with either 2100 attack or defense, but does lock you in the machines, which in this particular deck isn't really a problem. We've got Core, Triple Core. I would say definitely a free of. This guy, all normal summon, searches your deck for a Saber, Spell, or Trap card. Really good for consistency in general. And what I should mention as well is hers, Nashter, and Core all have an effect that changes their name to Saber Dragon while on the field, which means they do fit the conditions for the Fortress Dragon and for the Mega Fleet Dragon as well. So they are definitely worth running, even for that reason alone. But Core is definitely the best of them and is usually the normal summon of choice. And that's the Saber Dragon monsters themselves. Then we got some Saber Darks. We're running Triple Claw and 1 Chimera. Triple Claw, basically, Claw allows you to discard it to grab a Saber Dark Spell or Trap card and add it to your hand. Now, Cybernetic Horizon is treated as a Saber Dark card, so you can search this from your deck off of Claw as well as Saber Dark Realm, both of which are very powerful spells. So I think just the free discard into an additional search is really good. You could cut this card down if you want to, but I really think the extra consistency does help the deck a lot. It means that you don't lose as easily to a singular interruption if they hit your core with something. Claw can basically patch the hole that Core leaves, so I definitely think Claw is definitely worth playing. Then we have Saber Dark Chimera, which is a mandatory card in my opinion. I think this card's awesome. Basically, you can discard a spell or trap to add Power Bond from your deck to your hand. And you can also, for the rest of its turn, you can use monsters in your graveyard for fusion material on top of everything else. So Chimera is awesome for that purpose. Upon being sent to the grave, it'll mill a Saber Dark card as well, which doesn't matter in this particular build, but it's pretty funny. So this guy grabbing Power Bond and making it usable is excellent, and the reason being, we'll talk about Power Bond now, is this is a fusion spell. It allows you to fuse using your hand and field, and because of Chimera, also your graveyard, to bring out a machine monster, and it has its original attack doubled. But you take damage equal to its original attack during the end phase. So being able to summon out the likes of the Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon, or Saber Twin Dragon, or even the Saber End Dragon, with double its original attack points, is just an insane way of pushing for lethal damage. You really can turn an entire game around just like that. And the Rampage Dragon and Saber Twin Dragon both getting huge off of using it, 4200 and what would this be, 5600 apiece. And having multiple attacks, just insane. It's just insane. So for sure, you gotta play Chimera and Bond. So getting into the spell cards, we got Saber Emergency. So this card allows you to basically grab a Saber Dragon monster from your deck and add it to your hand. Very straightforward stuff. We have Cybernetic Horizon, which does something pretty similar. You basically drop a dragon and or machine Saber monster from your graveyard and your deck, one from hand, one from deck. Drop a light and a dark to the grave to grab a dragon or machine Saber monster from deck to hand. So basically it's a convoluted way of saying drop a monster, mill a monster, search a monster. It's that simple. It also allows you then after that to send a monster in your extra deck to the graveyard, which is more useful in the Saber Dark versions of the deck, of course. It's not really too useful here, but I mean it's a neat way of putting additional machines in your graveyard if you want to go down the route of a Power Bond fusion later on. Definitely just something worth bearing in mind. We have Saber Dark Realm as a one of that you ideally want to be searching off of the likes of Claw or Core. On activation, grabs a Saber Dark monster from deck to hand. That's how you're going to be getting access to your Chimera. It also gives you an additional normal summon of a Saber Dark monster, which means that you can not only search for but also summon your Chimera, which is pretty solid. Then lastly, for our spells, we have Clockwork Knight and Duality. These are your sort of new tools to play with. These are your OTK tools to sort of add a bit of space to Saber Dragons. Clockwork Knight, of course, changes all face-up monsters on the field to machines. All machines gain that I control gain 500 attack and defense, and my opponent's machines lose 500 attack and defense. So it does make them a bit smaller as well, which can come up, but mostly it boosting your monsters by 500. That 500 is big, right? Because that's the difference between a 2000 attack Chimera Fortress Dragon and Duality missing lethal or not. So if you just have this at 2000 attack plus your 56 here, you're going to be short of lethal. Whereas if you have Clockwork Knight up, you're not going to be. So just bear that in mind. It's small, it's niche, but it is definitely a thing. because it's all about contact fusion. It can also it does have another effect. You can banish this card from the graveyard to discard a card and add an Earth Machine from your deck to your hand. That's why we're playing Regulus. Not only is Regulus a really powerful card, it can special summon itself from the hand out of the field by equipping onto itself a machine from grave. It can also send a Furion card, like itself, to the graveyard in order to negate the activation of a card effect. So it's basically an Omni Negate that is really good just to have in your opening hand, but is also searchable off of Clockwork Knight. And lastly, we have Duality. We talked about this in a couple of videos now. You can tribute a light or a dark monster to special summon a light or dark monster of the opposing attribute, so long as its type and level is the same. You summon it from a hand or extra deck. So you're able to tag the likes of your Saber Dragon out into Ally Catastor, tag Fortress Dragon out into Saber Twin Dragon. There's also some really funky plays where you can go like Axel Synchron into Baron de Fleur using Duality. So that's a whole other kettle of fish. But it opens up a whole load of different possibilities. It's really good. Secondary to that, of course, it can also banish itself from the graveyard to return back a light and dark monster from your graveyard back to the deck to allow you to draw an extra card. A little bit +1 doesn't hurt anybody. And that's the entire main deck. It's really not that complicated. It really is that straightforward. Getting into the extra deck, we have the Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon, which is an OTK tool. On summon, you get to pop spells and traps in the field up to the number of materials used for its summon. It's 2 or more Saber Dragons. So you get to pop maybe between 2 to 5 cards. It's up to you. Pop a bunch of back row. And you can also send up to 2 Light Machine monsters from your deck to the graveyard, and it gains bonus attacks per monster sent. So it can attack up to 3 times per turn. At 2100, that's still pretty decent, but if you were to boost its attack up off of either a Seeger or a Power Bond, then having 4200 attack and attacking 3 times is a pretty big difference. Same can be said for Saber Twin Dragon. This card can attack twice at 28, that's already pretty impressive, but doubled off of Seeger or boosted by Seeger by 2100 or doubled off a Power Bond, again, it's a whole other kettle of fish. You're talking an insane amount of damage. Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, we've talked about this a few times already. Basically contact fuse using Saber Dragon and machines from anywhere on the field, and it gains 1000 attack per material used for its summon. So this is your tool alongside Clockwork Knight to completely wipe the board of all monsters. Then we've got the Chimera Tech Over Dragon. This is not a card that I summoned, and I think it's okay. It's kind of mid though. You can maybe get like a really clutch play off Power Bond in this card. Basically what happens is that it's fusion summon using Saber Dragon and any number of machines, and it gains 800 attack for each material used for its summon. Specifically, its original attack and defense become 800 multiplied by the number of materials, which means if you summon it off a Power Bond, it can get pretty big pretty fast, so it can have a pretty nutty amount of attack points. It can also attack opponent's monsters up to the number of materials used, so if your opponent has a whole bunch of monsters in attack position, this is a really easy way to go for lethal. But it doesn't really come up nearly as often as the other two. The other two are definitely better. Saber and Dragon, it's huge, it's piercing, it's dope as shit. Just play it, right? The Chimera Tech Mega Fleet Dragon. This one's interesting. This one can be contact fused using a Saber Dragon monster and any monster in the extra monster zone. So if your opponent's playing like a Link deck or they have anything in the extra monster zone, you can immediately contact fuse that card away into the Mega Fleet Dragon. Worth bearing in mind, its original attack become the sum of its materials times 1200. Then we've got Ally Catastor, destroys any non-dark it battles, which is pretty neat. Axel Synchron is just a tuner that can be summoned off of Duality. Again, so is Catastor, just summoned off Duality targets. Baron de Fleur, in case you have Axel Synchron and another level 5. Super niche, I know, but could be funny. Then we got these Nova and Infinity. So if you didn't want to play like some of these gimmicky cards, you could definitely cut them. Totally cut them for like an additional Nova and an additional Infinity if you really wanted to. Basically, Nova is here to insta rank up into Infinity, which is basically has a once per turn Omni Negate. It can also suck up once per your turn as an ignition effect. You can target a face up attack position monster on the field and attach it to this card as material. So you can suck up their monsters and you get a once per turn Omni Negate, which is pretty damn fucking strong. So Infinity is dope. I didn't honestly use it very much in this deck, which is why I was happy enough playing it at 1. But if you wanted to play it at 2, there's a lot of cards in here that you're not going to use, right? You're not really going to use Axel in the Baron. Maybe once a blue moon, right? It's not that big of a play. you would probably honestly be better cutting them just for like an extra Fortress Dragon or something like that. But you know, the play is yours. Do whatever you want. Zeus, because we can. Almirage, just in case we need to link one of these guys off. And lastly, Seeger. Seeger is a pretty decent card. During the battle phase, you can target a Saber Dragon monster, or a Machine monster, sorry, with 2100 attack or more, and you gift it an additional 2100 attack or defense, but for the rest of that turn, Seeger does not inflict damage to your opponent. The monster you boost can, Seeger can't. Worth bearing in mind. It can also boost itself, but it has to use its effect prior to this card declaring an attack, so don't get any fancy ideas. But yeah, Seeger, basically just another way of boosting up. You saw it in the gameplay. And that's the whole deck. It's really not that complicated. Maybe there are more Saber Dragon plays than what I'm aware of. Maybe there's some excellent tech out there that I'm missing. Some Saber Dragon guru is out there whacking his finger at the screen and telling me what a disgrace I am. But I mean, you're more than welcome to join the Discord to throw ideas at us, right? Everyone is always up for playing a little bit of Saber Dragon, so if you think you've got the sauce and you think you've got a better way of playing it, absolutely hop into the Discord and share the info, and we'll have a discussion about it, because, again, I'm all open to the ideas. I'm not a Saber Dragon expert, but the deck was just too fun for me not to post. So, that's the video. If you got this far, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, like the video if you haven't liked the video already, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.